Yeah. Well, he's just the best. So
awesome. Well, Gail, I have been excited for this conversation for a while, just like getting to chat on Instagram and seeing everything that you're talking about and kind of just watching the evolution of what you've done in the fitness space over the past, close to like 10 years. It's really cool to see. And one of the things I kind of wanted to like kick things off with was talking about some of the things you've seen kind of like the fitness industry changing over time as we're starting to kind of like, I can safely say your average person is getting a really like finely tuned tolerance for a lot of the BS that ends up online, and like being able to kind of move beyond, all the like hacks and the tricks and all the things, because at the end of the day, you just get back to the basics, and that's how it like really ends up like helping a lot of people.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, especially, I've officially been a licensed fitness professional for 15 years. So, when I started in the fitness industry, it was when the whole like clean eating thing was really big. And, I think fitness shows and things like that were starting to get really popular. So competing was kind of like the cool girl thing to do. And it was all about extremes, right? Like how sweaty can you get? How hard can you work out? CrossFit was just coming of age. So it was just like the more, the better, the heavier, the better. How crazy can you be? Can you stop eating carbohydrates altogether? For keto, paleo, all that stuff was kind of like starting all around that time. So it was a really strange time in the fitness industry because we had just come from like that 80s, 90s skinny girl, how skinny can you get to be like Kate Moss or like those like heroin chic type looks. And then it started to be about muscle, but then it was about extremes. And I think so many people were negatively affected by that, not only by injury, but just like their minds got fucked.
100%.
And it's just like, how much can your body handle? And now I think the biggest evolution that I'm proud of being a part of is almost like not the less is better, but like what actually is better, and kind of like what's better is better, not what's more is better. And, that's really what I try to embody and also teach my clients is, there's very basic things like you were saying that actually move the needle. There's a million different things online about every chemical or every supplement or every hormone and this and that and the other. And you can blame whatever. And you can spend as much money as you want on a gazillion different things. You could go broke. You can go bankrupt spending money on all these things, right? And at the end of the day, none of them actually do anything.
I mean, I definitely went through that whole phase of, and I was just talking about this with a friend the other day, is like, I tried every single supplement on the market to try and fix all of my attention and undiagnosed ADHD stuff. And it was really like working a job where I was walking 15,000 steps a day and carrying a lot of weight all the time and constantly moving, and just like being able to go back. I always say, like, in my mom's infinite wisdom, when I was homeschooled, she would be like, oh, he's not focusing on his homework. We just need to go run in the yard for 20 minutes to an hour and like get all that energy out, and then come back in and I get all my work done. And it's like, as an adult, I'm like constantly trying to grind through all of my work and then realizing, oh, actually, no, I need to go, for a bike ride or go, get some movement in. Yeah. And then I'm able to like focus significantly better. And it's like all of these different things that we're doing to try and like not be human is like just something that like kind of blows my mind. And like the more I start diving into, how all of these, whether it's a supplement or whatever the mechanism is, how it works, you realize that there's a very simple lifestyle fix that will solve most of the problems.
Right. And I think people I know we just kind of talked about this the other day on Instagram. People want supplements to be magic pills. They want to, to immediately change something about them. And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, a supplement, whatever kind it might be, only might change things like 0.001%. Yeah. And you're not going to really notice that. But what you do notice is going to bed at 9 p.m. every night for a consistent amount of time. Go to bed 9 p.m. for 30 days in a row and tell me on day 31 how much better you feel.
Oh, yeah. I had a client that was obsessed with sleep, and it was so funny. Everyone on the team made fun of him for it. And I was like, we had a conversation one day after a really early morning TV news hit, and he was like, what's our next obligation? I was like, not for another hour. And he's like, okay, great. I'm going to go get another 30 minutes of sleep. And I was like, I really respect your drive for sleep, because that's literally the superpower that allows you to work, 18 hours a day. And like, I wish more people really understood that, because it's it's really important.
And I think also when it comes to sleep and rest and recovery, because of that mindset, 15 years ago, and people are still like, oh, I got to do more. I got to do more. I got to do more. And it's like, actually, your sleep rest days should be just as important in your schedule as your workout days, as your work schedule. And it's interesting because, I have two kids, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they're kind of at the age now where like, oh, my friends get to do this. Why can't I do that? And I have strict bedtimes for my kids. And they've gotten later as the kids have gotten older, and I'm sure they will continue. But even as my son is 12, we still have a 9:00 bedtime on school nights. And I get a lot of pushback. Well, my friends get to do that. And it's interesting because in our household, sleep is a very important value in our lives. And I want to instill that in my children. And I have to explain to them, hey guys, that's fine if you don't have to agree with that. But other parents in their houses, they don't value sleep. And so they don't know how to teach that value to their kids. And I'm not in charge of that. But what I am in charge of is creating the values in our house that matter. And sleep is one of those values that's really important. And whether or not they like hearing that, that's just kind of the truth. But it is really interesting to me how unimportant, or just people put that by the wayside and let their kids stay up all hours of the night, even when they're still growing. Their brains are still growing. It's so important. Like, we forget how important sleep is. You want to regulate your hunger? Get some freaking sleep, right? Like, if you're starving, like, you're going to be craving all sorts of things all day long because that's your body needing energy. It's like, oh, I'm craving sugar. It's like, no, you're exhausted and your body needs energy. And so that's the quickest thing your brain's going to tell you. And fighting against that is really hard.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know if we want to dive into that can of worms, but it's like you start looking at, all these people are like, oh, I need to go eat the donut, or I need to drink all the, 64 ounces of coffee a day. Right. And it's like, the reality is like, it's usually something like way beyond that. And like, one of the things that I always struggle with trying to wrap my mind around was, I would say the intuitive eating movement that kind of hit like around like 2016 to 2019. And the big thing that always drove me insane was like the focus on all of the highly processed foods that would come as a part of that. And it's like, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of, oh, if you got better sleep, you wouldn't actually be craving the donut or the
right.
bag of Doritos or all of these other things. And then not even to factor in that like there are people literally out there as scientists to chemically make these things like as addictive as possible. Like you're fighting an uphill battle either way. But to kind of bring it back, like if you just focus on like getting better sleep, that is something that will solve 90% of the other problems downstream.
Yeah,
and it's
for sure.
such an easy thing to like focus on.
And it's easy, but I would say it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes.
Right. Like, so, the concepts are simple, but the application is not easy because it goes against what society is doing. It goes against what your habits have been for, however many years since you were a teenager. Right. And the idea is, there's a really great book. It's called Sleep, and I can get a copy of it to you. But the cool thing is that I learned a couple years ago is it's actually about the amount of sleep you get in a week. So, and the ideal amount of sleep cycles per night, but then actually factoring that on a weekly basis, which takes away that pressure. For example, let's say you have a really crappy night's sleep or really stressful day. It doesn't ruin your whole sleep pattern, because if you can still consistently get 4 to 5 sleep cycles a night for the week, so ideally anywhere between 28 and 35 sleep cycles, and a sleep cycle, not to get too technical, is about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And so when you average that out over a week, let's say one night you only get 3 sleep cycles, but another night you get 5. So it still averages out. And by the end of the week, if you can get between 28 and 35 sleep cycles, it actually still gives you that rest and recovery that you need without putting pressure on every single night. So as, parents or busy professionals or just anybody, you don't have to stress out about it so much. And then the other thing is, really, wake times are actually more important for your circadian rhythms than sleep times. So it's like, oh, I got to go to bed early. Yeah, that's a great concept. But in practice, that probably doesn't happen, right? Because it's like, oh, shoot, I still have that laundry to do. Or like, oh man, I got to get that email, or whatever the thing is that keeps you up late. But if you can consistently wake up at the same time 7 days a week, and this pisses people off.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to sleep in on the weekends. And that actually makes Monday morning 10 times harder. So if you can average out and figure out, if I could get up within 15 minutes of it every single day, including Saturday and Sunday, it actually regulates your circadian rhythms. So for me, that is between 6:30 and 7 a.m. That's just like what works for me. Every day I'm up between 6:30 and 7 a.m., even on the weekends. And it's so counterintuitive to what our society tells us. It's like, oh, I want to sleep in. And it's like, that actually is going to make you more tired. That wrecks your circadian rhythms, that like ruins those hormones that tell you it's time for bed, it's time for wake. And so finding a consistent wake time over the 7-day period is actually the way to go. And then if you are tired, like you were just saying, your friend that you worked with, taking a nap. So it's on Saturday, if you get up at 7 a.m. and you're up for a couple hours, it's like you can take a nap if you're still tired without ruining your circadian rhythm, but you still have to get up at that same time. And that makes such a difference in your rest and recovery long term. And these are just things that I feel like we were never taught. So it kind of seems like, oh, wait, everybody sleeps in on the weekends. It's like, well, let's stop doing what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be working for the masses, you know?
Just because it's like societally popular doesn't mean it's necessarily the right thing to do. Right. And like, I even noticed that whenever I was like working in coffee shops, like getting up at 6 every day or sometimes like 5, even on a late night sleep, I honestly like always felt better because, and I would notice that even if I was only getting like 6 hours of sleep, I would still be totally okay. And I think a big part of it had to do with that, just like consistent regimented schedule every single day. And try as I might, I'm still waking up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday and a Sunday. And now it's like, for me, one of the things I'm always kind of auditing is like, if I am sleeping in, it's usually something to do that's like disrupting my sleep from like the day before. Yeah. And it's like, oh, my body's like naturally not waking up at the time I get up every day. There's got to be something wrong. And it's like, okay, let's go back and look at what did I do yesterday that caused this, lack of sleep. Yeah. And I would say 90% of the time, it's usually I just didn't get enough movement in throughout the day. Yeah. And that's like that nervous energy is always like trying to get out.
Definitely. I know I always say, and I've said this for years, that, the reason I work out is so much more about my mental health than my physical health. And like, I would probably be like locked up away somewhere if I didn't get that movement out. I'm serious because like an idle mind, an idle body causes like your mind to like spin.
Oh, 100%.
And it's like, if you have all that extra energy and just goes into like your brain and your thoughts and your emotions, like that can wreak havoc on you.
That was, a conversation, I think probably like 6 or 7 years ago with one of my friends. He was like, I just wish people understood how good you could feel after like going for a walk for an hour or getting a hard workout in. And it's like the better, like magical, whatever the cause is that makes it happen, like getting in that movement and then just feeling that level of euphoria is insane. And I wish more people could like kind of wrap their minds around that.
Yeah. And in really understanding that as human beings, we have to move our bodies. Yes. It isn't something that you can, I don't feel like it, I'm not in the mood. It's like you cannot allow that to control you. Nobody feels like it. Yeah. I love to work out. Yeah. I love it. You love to move your body. Like, I love it. And I would say 50% of the days I don't feel like it. Like, do I wake up every morning and like, oh, I can't wait to work out? No. And I think it's a misconception that people think like, oh, that'll happen for me. And it's like, no, honey, that is not going to happen. You are going to always not feel like working out. You have to tell yourself to show up and do it no matter what. It's like, and it doesn't have to be every single day, as long as you're being intense, the 3 or 4 days that you're doing it. But people, I think there's this misconception of like, oh, well, I just don't feel like it, so I'm going to wait till I feel like it, or someday I'll feel like it all the time. It's like, no, like literally you're never going to feel like it, even if you enjoy exercise. Like those of us that love it, I still don't feel like doing it.
Yeah. I still think about like the David Goggins quotes every single day. He's like, sometimes I just wake up and I stare at my shoes for an hour because it's like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
I know this is going to be painful, but when you push through that, that's where like you start to get that reward on the other side. And it's like, I've, did it for like a little bit, but I hate the cold. So, doing like cold showers or cold plunges or anything like that, like the level of like, insane feel good, whatever chemicals after that is wild. And it's like a level of focus and motivation that I've never experienced outside of that. But that pain of going directly into that hard thing, I think is like the big part of what like makes that happen. And like similarly with like your kids and like the early bedtime, when I was a kid, my dad would get me up at 5 a.m. to train for our first triathlon when I was like 12. And it was like, I hated every second of it. Sure. And he would always tell me every morning, he's like, listen, he's like, you're going to hate me. But then at the end of it, he's like, do you ever get back from a run or a bike ride and go, yeah, no, I wish I didn't do that?
Right, exactly.
No. I'm like, having a great day. I have so much more energy. And even now I like just got my bike fixed back up so I can like go on like nice long bike rides. 400, 401, 402, 403. Okay. So that's one of the craziest things about podcast advertising is at a certain point, we've all kind of given up on what a creative ad can be. So if you're feeling like you're needing a little bit of help with your ads, or you would like to put an ad in this show or do anything else for your business, let's talk. Hit me up. Website is brandongoodyear.com. Let's get back into the show. Oh boy. And it's like, I get back from it. It's like, I have a level of like focus. My mind is finally clear. It's not, spinning off and creating negative, situations to have to imagine, like deal with. And it's just, it's such a level up in life that.
And I do want to point out, because I think for some people that euphoria feeling and stuff is a lot more intense.
Yeah.
And for others, it's a lot less intense. And the reason I say that is because I do work with women, and sometimes they're like, oh, like everybody gets this runner's high and I've never felt that way. And, and that's okay, because it might not be so intense. Like all of our bodies are different, have, the way that our nervous systems react or feel is going to be more heightened or less heightened. And so I think it's important to also look for how subtly it affects you.
Yes.
Instead of just like waiting. Some people, you get that euphoria, you get that like so-called runner's high, but others, it's more like, oh, I actually noticed when my kid was doing something that would typically annoy me and I would snap, I actually set down what I was doing. I didn't snap, and I was able to interact with my kid on a more human level and have that interaction be pleasant instead of unpleasant. And like those small ways actually matter too. And you have to be, they are subtle. So it's like in a situation where maybe you would have been set off by something and you realize, oh yeah, I would have been set off by that in the past before I started having a regular movement practice. And now, I was able to, stay calm through that moment. Those are like the subtle ways that I think are just as important, because those things really add up.
It's like being more emotionally regulated, because you're actually like way more in tune with how your body is.
Yeah.
And like, it's, that whole idea of like, you need to like get out of your head and into your body. I remember hearing that in yoga practice for a long time. And I was like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, What does this mean? And then now it's like over the past couple of years, I've really started to kind of like focus on that as like the majority of my job being sitting at a desk, using my brain, thinking a lot. And then realizing like, oh, just sitting and trying to grind stuff out, I'm like spiraling out of control and making up all these imaginary problems to solve. And then as soon as I like go for a walk or go for a run, all of a sudden you get back, it's like, oh, I can think clearly now. Like, and it's like that thing, I think we're, in this space of like, oh, we can just like solve our mental health problems with just like thinking through it. Nope. And I'm like, no, I like,
it doesn't work that way.
I hate to repeat it 2 podcasts in a row, but I like, this is a really cringe Tony Robbins quote I heard from like years ago. And it's this idea that like, you can't change your mental state without changing your physical state.
Right.
And so if you're feeling like shit, go move your body and like do something crazy. And like, if you are still feeling like shit, okay, there's other problems and we need to solve that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that will solve it for most people.
For like the more surface level things going on. Yeah. And I think that getting back to how we kind of started with like where in the, the extremes in the fitness industry. And I think sometimes people feel like they need to like beat themselves up to like, it's like beat the brain out of you, for lack of a better term. And it's actually so like, I think where we're evolving to is being more intentional and intense with what we're doing. So for example, instead of doing, a gazillion lunges with light weights, doing, 7 lunges on each leg with really heavy weight, really good form, really intentional, but where it's like really freaking hard, and it's like, at first that's such a mind fuck, because if you, especially like a lot of people that initially start out with me, they're used to doing like these boot camp classes or CrossFit classes or, things where it's like hold and pulse and like, it's a different, it's a feeling. Right. But the feeling doesn't equal the results. And I think that's like the biggest thing that most people need to wrap their mind around. It's different and it works better for your nervous system, for your overall longevity, if you are intense, but in a very specific way, again, instead of doing 1,000 lunges, let's do 7 for 3 sets and really heavy, really intentionally. And that's different on your nervous system. It's not going to exhaust you and beat you up, but it is going to cause the muscle fibers to tear and rebuild, instead of, just feeling exhausted and your joints ache and all these things happen. So there's like this different things. And it does take people a while of working with me to like change their mindset, because when you're so used to feeling a certain way, or like think you need to beat yourself up to get this result, or even beat yourself up for your mental health, and then you change it to, oh man, how strong can I get? How intentional can I move? How can I make these really few reps actually the best ones they can be? And you're not so exhausted then, but it helps you in a way that your nervous system understands, instead of just like going all extreme, wacky, all out, And I think, and I've said this for a long time, but you can either train for a feeling or train for a result. And there's not necessarily a right or a wrong, but when people come to me and they're like, well, I just haven't ever been able to get these results, it's like, that's because you're training for a feeling. Yeah. And they're like, oh, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, you're training to sweat as much as possible, to shake as much as possible, to like feel like a deadbeat, like you can't move, possibly laying on the floor like you're dead after a workout. And that's a feeling. But those feelings aren't going to build your muscles. They're not going to change your body composition. They're not going to help you feel good, because you're just going to be exhausted.
Yeah, I'm so glad you went there, because that literally was like one of the biggest unlocks for me over the past like year, is training heavy for the idea of like, you need to build strength. And it's like, my entire history was in like endurance athletics,
sure.
Long distance races, marathons, that type of thing. And I always joked when I was doing all of that, I was allergic to weightlifting, because I was like, I don't want to put on any weight. I need to be as efficient as possible. Right. My friend would, talk about deadlifting like 300 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, man, but like I can like run circles around you all day, every day. And then like now, as I'm starting to kind of like get back into that world a little bit, having built up this like core base of strength that I've been working on for the past year, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to run so much faster. Everything that I do in life is so much better.
And you have like some more efficiency to it.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah, if you put on a little muscle, it might slow you down a little bit, but also your knees are going to be healthier. Your
100%.
Hips are going to be healthier, because your muscles are going to protect those joints now, instead of just grinding those joints out. And I think people get, like, oh, why do my knees hurt? Why do these things? It's like, well, because your muscles are not the muscles are supposed to take the brunt of it, but now your joint is.
Exactly. One of the people that I work with, that's like the thing she's constantly helping me with, because coming from like, sitting at a computer all day and then trying to go run, I have been dealing with a lot of knee issues. And at the end of the day, one of the things we figured out is like, oh, you have underdeveloped like stabilizer muscles and all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's very common.
So I literally, started incorporating, like Bulgarian split squats and like a whole bunch of other auxiliary things into my workouts. And now it's like, I do like a couple of those as like my warm up. And then when I go for a run, completely pain free.
Yes.
And it's like those connections in my brain, it just like, it blows my mind once I like learn all of this stuff, because now it's like, I can't help but not see like every single person and every single friend I have that wants to go for a run or starts getting into this. And then like a week later, they're like, yeah, I blew out a knee, or I'm having all these issues. And I'm like, oh man, this is like basic information that like, if you want to go running, here's the like get started guide.
Just like go run.
Yeah, like, you can't just
after
go.
You've been sitting for years.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you have to strengthen the muscles. You have to weight them up. You have to get the blood flow in there, and then let's start. But people just want to. They want the feeling and they don't think about the result. And I think at the end of the day, people want the result. Yeah. It's like, sure, you want to feel a certain way, but if you're just working out for a feeling because you think it's supposed to be that way, because you see like these Victoria's Secret looking models doing it, and you think it's just so it's like a mind fuck, because we're told and we're shown these things, but it's like, that's actually not what you're doing. If like you're actually trying to change your body, get healthier, build strength, live for longevity. I'm not sure about you, but like God willing, at 80, 90 years old, I still want to be able to like pick up a suitcase and put it in the overhead compartment without asking for help. I still want to hike beautiful places, because that's what makes me feel alive. And some of those hikes are hard, and you have to train in your 40s and 50s and keep training if you want to be able to do those things, God willing, at 80 and 90. And I think we lose sight of that. And it's like that big picture of like, okay, if you're just training for a feeling, you're going to wreck your body. But if you're training for a result, you're going to have longevity. You're going to be doing things with intensity, but for intentional reasons. And that is just so much more important. And for myself, it took me a long time personally because, I was in that group fitness scene for years. I was like obsessed with it. If you would have asked me 10 years ago and told me what I'm doing now, I'd have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like at the time, I had a knee injury. I had a rotator cuff tear. I had all these things and my foot always hurt. And it was just like, yeah, because I was working out for a feeling and it wasn't the right things to build strength and keep my body working properly. And now my body's entirely changed from what it was 10 years ago. And it's just, and I actually do way less.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's also wild because it's like, I feel like I never want to like discount or shit on any of that, because I think the hard trap that you fall into is because it does quote feel so good. Yeah. You're like, oh, why do I need to change? But then it's like, okay, let's take like half a step back and go, okay, but I'm also always injured. I'm dealing with all these other things. And it's like, okay, well, let's figure out what is the solution to this. And something I'm interested to hear kind of your perspective on it is like, I always think about this idea. I watched this video years ago on how Toyota builds cars.
Okay.
They build trucks to race in the Baja 1000, the most grueling off-road race. You're not going to race your truck every day, but it means that you can go pick up lumber from Home Depot from now until you die and your truck is going to be fine. And so when I think about working out, I think like, I'm not going to be a world-class athlete. Well, hopefully, maybe someday, who knows? But like, I'm not thinking that way. But if I train like I'm going to be, then everyday life is just going to be so much easier. And like, you'll hit the longevity part.
But I think people don't see what the world-class athletes do behind the scenes.
100%.
Right? They don't see their intentional rest days. They don't see their intentional sleep. They don't see their intentional recovery. They don't see their intentional warm-ups. They don't see their intentional, they just see the Olympics. They just see the sporting event. They just see like the highlight reel of them like lifting, squatting or deadlifting crazy amounts of weight. But world-class athletes, like that's just the very last little bit of it. They don't see all the stuff beneath that, which whether you're a world-class athlete or a stay-at-home mom, like you still need to put sleep first. Recovery has to be part of your routine. Making time for your self-care and mental health and emotional health, like those things are just, if not more important than, the workouts themselves. And I think, something I realize, especially with women that come to me, usually they're in their 40s and 50s. Most of them have had kids that are now like either, middle school age, or some of them are already out at college. And I think so many of these women have lost sight of what self-care actually is. And a lot of times that can just be like doing something that you're interested in, doing something that brings you joy. And I have to remind people, like, working out cannot be the only thing you do that brings you joy. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if the only thing you're doing for yourself is a workout, I think you're missing the point. Do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy learning? Do you enjoy writing? Do you enjoy singing? Do you enjoy dancing? Do you enjoy, whatever the thing is? Like, those things for your mental and emotional health are so important to still make time for in your life. And if you're not doing that, you're sort of missing the point of like a holistic health approach. And I see that. And once people start being like, oh my God, I started reading again, and learning new things and hearing like these stories, and now you have interesting things to talk about. Now your brain is being stimulated. Now you're excited to like pick up a book and have a few 10 minutes to yourself here and there. And those little bits of things actually are so healthy for you. And, it's like, oh, that like hustle culture. Yeah, but what about what lights you up? What about what brings you joy? If you aren't finding joy in your regular life, if you're only having joy like once a year on vacation, again, you're like missing the point.
Yeah, that's something I'm like starting to kind of realize more and more is like, do you want to build a life that you feel like you constantly have to escape from on the weekends and go on vacation from and, get away from as much as humanly possible? Or do you want to find something that will like bring you joy and like you love doing? And like, I was just talking with a friend yesterday about this. I'm like, when it comes to my life and my business and what I'm doing, I was like, oh, I want to do like really, really big things and do them like every once in a while. And then I started like thinking about it, and that started happening. I was like, wait a second. No, actually, like I have way more fun when I can like do a bunch of like smaller things, work with really cool people, and I'm doing it like all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like something that I don't feel like I have to escape from. And it's like, I think that's just like a level of awareness. And I think kind of a theme I'm kind of seeing with a lot of the stuff that you're doing now is like just getting back to being human.
Yes.
And like not trying to, get into this like robot regimented, I got to take exactly these supplements at this time and I got to do exactly this workout and like hit all these things. Like if you have like a specific goal, obviously measure that, because you can't just like blindly shoot in the dark.
Of course, yeah.
But like, if you're trying to, also just be human, like listen to your body, feel what's going to work for you. I think
there's so many women though that like get to a certain point and they have like forgotten that about themselves, whether they've dedicated their life to their kids or their family or their partner or whatever. And it's just like, for me personally, that really came about during the pandemic. Okay. And, I had closed a fitness studio. I was like at one of the lowest points in my life. I had, and I think the straw that broke the camel's back is my first dog, my first pet that I ever had, died in April of 2021. And that was like after the whole pandemic and that, I was just like, what the fuck is my life right now? And it just like, I decided to take a year off. I literally shut everything down. I took a year off. And during that year, I was like, oh my God, what are audiobooks?
Yeah.
I never had listened to them before. And I'm like, audiobooks changed my life. And since 2021, I have read over 200 books. So in the last
That's insane.
4 years, I've read over 200 books because of audiobooks. And I make time for that, whether it's like while I'm walking my dogs or while I'm doing like house stuff or whatever. Like I'm reading, I'm doing things that I enjoy. And I love self-help books, but I've also found that like I love fiction. I love fantasy. I love all these other genres because they get you out of your head and your head spinning and all these things, but you can learn about cultures, you can learn about people, you can learn about all these other things. And really the joy that reading has brought into my life and the amount of cool conversations I'm able to have with people because of whether it's a specific book or just about an autobiography of a person or whatever the thing is, that's one of those things that was like, oh my God, like I need to do more of this stuff that makes me a human being, that brings me joy that I can then connect with other people about. And I've talked to like so many cool people about books. I mean, now I'm like, there's not enough time. There's too many books. I've got a wish list that's like 100 books long and who knows if I'll get to them, but it's so important like to find something in your life. And it doesn't have to be just one thing, but just even if it's 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, that like lights you up and you're excited for, that has nothing to do with your workout, has nothing to do with your kids, your partner, your work, that is just literally for you. And I think that's the thing that most people, you get to like, your 40s, 50s, you kind of forgot that. And you're like, why am I so miserable? Why does life feel so mundane? Why does, it feel like you're not excited about anything? It's because you forgot. You forgot to bring yourself joy.
100%. It's like, I remember like as a kid vividly hearing this from a lot of older people and they're like, oh, you don't get old because or it's something to the effect of like, you don't stop playing because you got old, you get old because you stop playing.
Exactly.
And it's like, that has, I'm still not great at like manifesting that in my own life, but it's something I'm like trying to be a little bit more conscious of in terms of like, okay, what am I doing that's like play, fun, just for joy? Because like, at the end of the day, if everything is like, work or moving the needle forward or progress or optimization or whatever it is you're trying to do, that's just going to lead to a really like inhumane, boring life.
And you're going to burn out.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, burnout is like, that's something I'm still kind of like trying to like recover from right now in terms of like realizing that it's like, I think a big part of burnout and something I'm kind of trying to like articulate better is it's when you're doing something that you've like not aligned with, but you just like couldn't admit it for a very long, you just keep doing it because you're like, oh, I'm really good at this thing. So I'm just going to like keep going. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like 5 years down the road, like, oh shit, where am I? How did I get here?
I can totally relate to that feeling. And I think like the idea of play is also important for joy. And for me, that's really come out in my life. I mean, anybody that follows me on Instagram knows like I go to 1 million concerts a year now.
That's awesome.
I love live music. And like, thank goodness, like my partner, we align very closely on all of that. We love the same music. We love going to shows together. And we try to do it as much as possible. Of course, like that's awesome. It is expensive and you can only do it so much. But the point is it brings so much joy to just go and just like dance your butt off and like scream your heart out and like, connect with I like to say my teenage self, like I'm making all my teenage dreams come true
Yes.
at 42 years old. And, yes, sometimes it's exhausting. Like we'll travel for concerts or this or that, but it's always worth it. It's always worth being a little tired on Monday morning to have had like an incredible experience and to make time for that on a regular or semi-regular basis, again, financially or just timing wise with kids and stuff. It doesn't work out always, but, and a big part of that, people are like, how do you do so much of that? Like, I could never do that. I'm like, honey, I'm sober. Like, I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah.
And no, there's no way I could not go to a music festival for 4 days and drink alcohol and feel good Monday morning. Like, zero chance of that happening. But I can go there. I can not drink alcohol. I can be fully present, not black out, fully in the moment, crying, screaming, dancing, just feeling all the things. And that make me feel alive. And I can do that 4 days in a row. Sure, I'll be a little tired Monday and it's worth it. But no, like people, I think they realize, I'm like, yeah, I don't drink alcohol at these events because, that doesn't align with myself or my values anymore.
Yeah.
But I am able to go and enjoy my life and have fun and play because I'm choosing to do it, without alcohol. And then I can fully be present. I can remember it because also what's the point if you black out and don't remember the event itself?
I remember it was like the most naive thing I think I've ever said in my entire life when I was like 17, 18. I was working at a coffee shop and I remember telling one of my friends, I'm like, if you need alcohol to have a personality, like what the fuck are you doing? And then like as I got older and life happened and you obviously go through that phase.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, I like also have been like relatively sober for I would say probably the past like 4 years. No, longer than that, like 5 or 6 years. And it just like for me it was like going out to drink was more of a like hanging out with friends thing. Sure. And it wasn't a like I need to go out and get a drink type thing. And so I'm curious, what was kind of the thing that ultimately brought you to that decision of like, I need to like cut this out?
So it got really, I would like to say I've never had like a substance abuse issue. I didn't have, I would never say I was even close to being an alcoholic or anything like that. However, I get really sick from alcohol very easily and I always have, and I've just kind of pushed through. I'm somebody who, for whatever reason, I think I don't have enough of the enzymes in my body that break down alcohol. So even if I have 1 or 2 drinks, I might find myself vomiting.
That's
because it makes
crazy.
me very ill.
Yeah.
And in college, my friends kind of used to be like, "Oh, where's Gail going to throw up tonight?" Because it was just
no.
like I got like alcohol really makes me sick. And so, but for like so much of my life, I'm like, oh, everybody drinks. I just, that's just what happens. I just have to deal with that. And I also have chronic migraines. And so between the fact that I'm easily sickened by alcohol and it does really increase the amount of migraines that I get because it is definitely a trigger for that.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, I allowed the drinking to get a little bit, I think a lot of people did that. Like, we didn't have anything else to do. So we definitely drank more than we should have.
Yep.
And I was on my way home from my 40th birthday in Paris and I was super hungover. Okay. That was March of 2023. And I was like so sick on the airplane. And I just had this moment. I was like, I am 40 years old. I have been doing this to myself, feeling this sickness for like 20 some years now. And the whole point of my career and my morals is to live a long and fulfilling life, not just a long time, but like the quality of life. And here I am at 40 years old, giving up literally days of my life to feeling ill, not being able to get out of bed. But then I'm trying to live till 90 plus years old and have a high quality. Like this doesn't align anymore, right? I'm giving up days now, but like hoping for more days later. Like that makes no sense. And, that was kind of, I was like, I don't ever want to feel like this again. Like, what am I doing? And at first it was like kind of weird. And my family kept being like, it's not that they were unsupportive, but every time are you drinking tonight? Are you drinking tonight? And I'm like, no. And eventually I was like, you guys, I will tell you if I'm going to. Stop asking. Just assume I'm not from here on out. Yeah. And I actually just celebrated 2 years of being alcohol free last week. And it has I have significantly decreased my migraines. I haven't obviously been hungover a single day in 2 years. So I haven't had that like vomiting, can't get out of bed, awful feeling. So I've gotten all that back. I've given that back to myself, and that aligns with the life I'm living, who I want to be, the person I want to grow old to become. And so for me, it was really just wrapping my head around, I'm not willing to give up days today, hoping for days in the future. Like that made no sense anymore. And for me, it's been awesome because I have been able to fully experience life. And whether it's concerts, whether it's events with my kids, whether it's holidays, any of those things, like I can be fully present and fully in that moment and also then remember it fully. And to me, again, that just aligns with who I want to be.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that's something like I'm excited. I hope more people really like embody that kind of thinking around it, because that's something I even noticed for me. I have a joke. One of my friends, he's a few months older than me, and every year he would text me, and it started when we were like in our 20s, and he's like, yeah, like, 25, that's when your health goes to shit, and like all that. And it was like, I look back on it, I'm like, what were we talking about? But I would always like, I also like have been like kind of on this like health journey since I was like way too early, probably like 11 or 12, but like every year that year would come around, and I would, get my bottle of whiskey for my birthday, and I would go way too hard for a week, and I would be like, oh, like maybe he's right. And then like the alcohol would clear my system, and I'm like, no, what are you talking about? I feel better than ever. And like every year it just like, no, I feel great. What are you talking about? And then it's like, I started like realizing and auditing. And now I have a number of friends that are kind of like in that like 10-ish years older than me range. And I look at their lifestyle, and when I like, I hate observing when I like see people on social media and they're talking about like major health issues and all these things that they're dealing with. And then I like look at their lifestyle, and it's like, you're drinking a glass of whiskey every single night. You eat mostly pizza and chicken wings, and like, you're not taking care of your health. You're not exercising. Yeah. And I'm like,
unfortunately, that's a lot of people. And it's, again, it's one of those things that's become so normalized in our society that nobody looks at that and says like, hey, like you kind of have a problem. And it's just like, because to each their own, do whatever you want. Like, I'm not here to tell anybody. I always say that.
Exactly.
I'm just suggesting things. I'm not here to tell you, you are an autonomous person. You are sovereign over yourself.
Yeah.
I just think that most people think what's normal and acceptable is okay when actually it's really not.
Yeah.
And some people are pretty straightforward and honest about that. Some people sugarcoat it. I'm probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But it's actually not okay if you can't go into a social setting without alcohol.
Yeah.
Like there is deeper stuff going on. Like if you don't know who you are, or you are not comfortable with who you are in a social setting without alcohol, you have some work to do. And I don't say that in a mean or judgmental way, because I have been there.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I went to a concert completely sober, I was like, this is so weird, right? Like, can I dance sober? Like, are people looking at me? What's going on? Like, can I sing I sing out loud sober while they're playing? It's because it's different when you're used to something being a certain way. But I'm like, okay, this is my work to feel comfortable being Gail, dancing and singing at a concert with no alcohol and not giving a shit what anybody else thinks. That was my work. And I took that on. I was like, I want this. Like, I'm going to do this. And I just wish that more people, even if you're like going out with friends, if you feel like you have to have that drink to like calm down and be yourself and like you have some work to do. You really do, because you should be able to be yourself, feel good about who you are showing up as without the alcohol. And I think that's where it's been so normalized, where, it starts to affect your health.
Yeah. I feel like that ties into something that I think we're starting to kind of see a little bit more nowadays, is kind of hitting on the idea of confidence. And I think like, I think about like the rise of social media and like my own mental health stuff that I've had to deal with, where it's like, you just like, I something that clicked for me, it was like 2 years ago, I had this moment, and it was like, all of my friends locally that I work with in this industry are just like top-notch, incredibly talented people. And then I have some other connections that are also just like world-class talented creative people that I know. And I was like getting in my head about it. And I'm like, I'm never good enough. I'm not going to be able to do any of this. And then it's like, I started meeting people outside of my industry. And then like, I had this like refreshing moment of reality. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, my friends in the industry, they're not the ones hiring me. They're not the ones I have to impress. The people that I need to impress literally don't know anything about what I do.
Sure.
And they think it's all magic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, wait a second. Like, and being able to kind of like, one, put myself in those places where I can like be able to rebuild that confidence, but then also realize that And even like I have conversations with friends about this. They're like, oh, like you're doing all this like cool stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like 90% of my time is sitting in my basement, just like overthinking everything and like trying to come up with some cool idea. And you see the like 5 things that I post every year that, you know, is like my piece de resistance of like a project.
Yeah.
And, you know,
but they don't see all the things.
They don't see all the other like dark stuff that I'm going through. And so I'm curious, like, especially like in this fitness world, like I don't know how far you would want to go into like this side of it, but it's like the thing I always see is like the people that are in like the ads to be able to, you know, advertise some program or something.
Yeah.
They're not doing a bunny boot camp thing to get that sculpted body.
Nope.
And like, I mean, I go as far as like the thing that drives me insane is I know that there's a ton of like substance abuse in like that modeling side of the industry to like market this.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's unfortunate because I think a lot of people, they look at that and they go, oh, I'm going to get that result from this program. And it's like, couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, you touched on a little bit like the comparison stuff on social media. And unfortunately, that plagues us all. And that's why I don't think children should be on social media at all, because their brains are not developed. And like even us adults can barely handle that. So
100%.
Why would you, you know, allow your child to deal with that? And so, you know, even, you know, especially in the fitness industry, that's prevalent, you know, comparison, you know, to other coaches, to other fitness models and this and that and the other. And for me, for years, you know, I was like, oh, why can't I look like that? Or, you know, I'll try this and do that. And I did, like I was saying, I was doing all these extreme things. And it was because I was comparing myself to these other people and like, oh, it can't be that easy. It has to be harder. It has to be this. I'll try this. I'll try that, jumping around. And interestingly enough, I think for me, the biggest shift happened in a lot of the nervous system work that I do with a somatic therapist. And that has been really huge for me. And we can go into that more.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I was doing a call, like a group call with my clients a couple of weeks ago. And one of the meditations we were doing was on being able to love and accept your body. And it was a situation where, you know, throughout, like it was a guided meditation and, you know, talking about like picturing different body parts that maybe you don't feel proud of for whatever reason and shifting your thought about what that body part does. And, you know, for example, like some people, you know, for years, I didn't like my legs. I wouldn't wear shorts.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with my legs, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
However, like I had this picture, my legs didn't look like that person online. So like I have to cover them up. And now, you know, and in this meditation, you know, it was like, think about what your legs do for you. Think about, they take you everywhere. They allow you to dance. They allow you to hike. They allow you to do all these things with your family. And, you know, and you're lucky to have them because there's people that have legs that don't function properly. And, you know, it's like, so finding the gratitude for that part of your body. And so this was the meditation we were doing. And you know, we have a discussion afterwards with my clients and, you know, I don't usually talk about myself in that call because I'm there to show up and hold space for them. But one of them had specifically asked me how I dealt with that. And I'm like, you guys, this is so interesting because even during this meditation, I've gotten to a place where I'm so proud of the body that I've built and the strength that I have that I don't judge myself like that anymore. And that was like, it was kind of like, oh shit, like, wow.
That took a long time, but I'm here.
Yeah, like this was like the first time, like I know that about myself, but this like really like brought it full circle. And I was like, you know, I don't judge my legs anymore because you know why? They're freaking strong. They, you know, I take care of them. I, you know, have put so much energy into building those muscles and, you know, whether it's going to physical therapy and like correcting imbalances and injury and all those things, I'm just so proud of what my legs have accomplished for me.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for them. So this is just one example, but just getting to a point where you have to get away from that. Like you said, like the perspective shift. It's just like, no, like all those people in your industry, but that doesn't even matter. What matters is like your skill set for what you do, only you do, and you can be proud of that. And it's just the same thing with like comparing our bodies. It's like only you have your body. And if you can get to a point for what your body does instead of what your body looks like, I think that's just like such a huge shift. And that's why strength training, I think, is ultimately so important because it switches the focus for you. Whether, you know, it might take your brain years or decades to like come along with that ride. But when it does, it's like, oh, holy crap. Like, no, I'm really proud of how strong I am and capable my body is. And I stopped looking in the mirror and judging it.
Yeah.
And I think in, you know, just as far as like in the fitness industry, it's just so prevalent that, like you said, like, oh, this person is promoting this program to look like that. And it's like, yeah, they probably do take drugs, or that picture was probably super photoshopped. And, you know, there's the thing about normalizing normal bodies.
Yeah.
Right? Like normal healthy bodies don't necessarily have a six pack.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a six pack to have a normal, healthy body. That should not be the goal for everybody.
Yeah.
Unless you are, for some reason, competing for something. But, you can have a normal, healthy body and still have a little bit of fat on your stomach. And that's perfectly normal and healthy. Like, to have that amount, especially for women, we're supposed to have some body fat because it helps with our reproductive systems, our hormones, regulating the sleep and the hunger, all those things. Like, you do have to have some body fat. So, accepting what is a normal body, what does your healthy body look like and feel like and do, instead of judging, comparing to mine or so-and-so's, really being like, I'm proud of my body for what it does for me.
Yeah. Even personally doing the strength training stuff that I've been doing this year, I like started noticing, I'm like, I don't exactly have my six pack anymore. And I was like, I remember I had like a crisis, and I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. I got to like do more work. Here's how I'm going to like dial this in. And then I had a moment realizing one day, I was like, wait, hang on. I feel way better. I'm like way more mentally clear. I'm like, I think I can survive with this. And I think it actually like, it'll probably be better in the long run. And especially living here in Ohio, it gets freaking cold in the winter. Right. And like, as someone
having
who
a
literally
layer of body fat is helpful in the winter
having like
time.
a nice little layer of body fat, I'm like, I don't know. We'll see how this winter goes.
Yeah.
I think I still have a little ways to go in terms of like insulation there. But I think for the most part, like, having that like understanding of like, it doesn't have to be picture perfect. And like, for me, it's like diving down the rabbit hole of like, I've been watching a lot of people on YouTube who are diving into like the bodybuilding world.
Yeah.
And it's crazy once like, and it's like,
the bodybuilding world is fake.
It's so fake.
It's so fake.
It's atrociously fake, but it's also like, people don't realize like most of these guys are like literally knocking on death's door when they walk on stage.
Yes.
And like,
you literally feel like you have the flu.
Yeah.
When you are walking on stage.
It's horrible. And like, that's become like, because we live in such a visual society, that's like, oh, they're like the pinnacle of health. And
but
it's like,
not.
No, it's not even remotely close. And it's like, I feel like it's the worst kept secret, because it's like everyone in that industry knows how bad it is. But it's like your everyday person, all they do is they see the like, the pose contest, and they're like, oh, these guys are cool. And then that's it.
But like
and
a normal healthy man, like specifically in men's bodybuilding, like a normal
100%.
natural man does not, like a healthy, normal, natural man does not look like that.
No.
Like if you went back, 1,000 years and even like saw warriors.
Yeah.
Like a warrior 1,000 years ago in, Rome, that was like functionally strong, could probably kill people.
Yeah.
Did not look like
actual
that.
Savages.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they like looked like a normal person. Like there's a difference between a normal athlete of a man who doesn't take drugs or do this crazy stuff versus somebody who's preparing for a bodybuilding show. And it's the same for women.
Yeah.
Even in the bikini and stuff, like those are not sustainable things.
It's like once you like if you talk to anyone who's ever tried to hit that like 1% body fat percentage, it's literally awful. You feel horrible. And it's like, for me, I'm like not quite, I think I'm close to like 9% now, but it's like starting to like move up in that. I'm like hoping to like try and get like 10-11% is like my goal. And I'm like, I know that once I get past that, like so much other things are going to like get a lot better.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're just like, we have this like visual obsession. And it's like, I was talking about this. I had Matt Wenning on my show a while back.
Oh, cool.
And like one of the things I was talking about, and similarly here, like I'm interested, like, do you feel like social media has been a like net positive on this industry in terms of like more people now have access to information? Or do you feel like the amount of just absolute nonsense on the internet has kind of corrupted the whole thing?
I mean, that's definitely a loaded question. I do not think we have an information problem. There's too much information is the problem. So I think social media negatively affects that. There's too much misinformation that's circulating out there, and there's more misinformation than real solid information. So I think in general, I mean, unfortunately, even my business relies on social media. I think in general, it's probably net negative. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I could say differently. There's more misinformation out there. We have an information overload problem. And this is what I see with women when they come to me. There's too many things, right? Yeah. And it's like, you really need 3 or 4 things. And it's super not sexy. So it's like those things are not like the things that actually matter and make a difference in your body and your health are not sexy. They aren't not clickbait. They are not going to fearmonger you. They are not going to tell you you're broken. They are not going to tell you that because you're this age or this or that or the other. So they're really boring, and they're really, the things that you would not, somebody would post on social media, you wouldn't even give a shit about because it's really not interesting.
Yeah.
Having the basics, sleep.
Yeah.
Making sure to make sleep a priority in your life. Like that is not sexy.
No.
And, there's so much misinformation about all these supplements that give you energy and that blah, blah, blah. And like no supplement makes up for lack of sleep, period. End of story. No, I had a client message me the other day, like, hey, what's something I can do? I'm just feeling like really run down for energy. And I'm like, what's a supplement I can take? And I'm like, well, unfortunately, there's not a supplement you can take. You can go get blood work done. I always recommend that people get blood work done. And I really think we should have it at least twice a year.
100%.
Because there could be vitamin deficiencies and those can make a difference. And the only way to know if you have them is blood work. And the only way to get that blood work is with an actual doctor, not some influencer on social media.
Yep.
So go to your doctor. I don't care what kind of doctor, get your blood work done twice a year, especially as you get older. I think twice a year. Because let's say, you go the first time and your vitamin D is bad and you're anemic because your iron is low. You need to test it again 6 months later to make sure that supplements you're taking to fix that are working.
Yeah.
Because if you wait a whole year, and then it's not working, you don't know to increase them or change them or whatever the thing is.
It could also be coming out of winter in the Midwest where there's literally no sunshine, and then you get it the second half of the year and you're like, oh, my vitamin D is actually better because I'm outside all the time.
And then maybe you don't need to take the supplement.
Exactly.
So, but it's like, there's no supplement that's going to make you feel more rested. But what will is looking at your lifestyle and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not managing my stress. I am not managing my sleep. And those things make the difference. But those things aren't going to be clicks. Nobody's going to click on that on social media. And so when I talk about managing stress, it's, hey, do you have a mindfulness practice? Do you take a few minutes of your day and close your eyes and breathe? That's how you can manage your stress, at least at the beginning, right? You can say no. You do not have to be in the PTO and the classroom this and the work this and this board and that board. Say no. You are stressing yourself out unnecessarily. And I think a lot of people think that saying yes to everything, it's no, you actually need to take your time back. That's how you decrease your stress load.
Yeah.
And only you can say no. So it's but again, not sexy. Nobody's going to click on that.
Yeah.
And then it's the stuff for nutrition that actually matters. It depends what your goal is. If your goal is pure longevity and health, yes, that's when you want to make sure that you are focusing on eating whole foods, lots of fruits and vegetables, getting antioxidants, all of that stuff from, as many fruits and vegetables as possible, lean proteins. Yeah. Now, if you're telling me your goal is fat loss, yes, those things still apply, but now we have to look at the quantity of food you're eating.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, for fat loss goal, we always want to make sure we're getting vitamins and minerals and nutrients from our food. But for fat loss specifically, it is about the quantity of food that you are eating and what percentage of that quantity is protein. And so are you getting enough fiber? And those things, again, this is not sexy.
Yeah.
This doesn't get somebody to click on it for me telling them, hey, we need to look at the quantity of what you're eating. But if fat loss is your goal, then that is what we need to look at more so than are you eating, we still want you to eat fruits and vegetables, but it also becomes that acai bowl was 1,200 calories. And so you gotta, yes, it has lots of fruits, vitamins and minerals in it, but also that's not good for fat loss because you just ate over half your day's food in an acai bowl. That probably didn't really fill you up.
Yeah. You're going to be hungry 10 minutes later and then eating way more than you need to.
And so, it's just these things. And then, as far as working out goes, there's all these trendy things. There's always trendy things that get the clicks, and it's me doing a lunge with heavy weight isn't real exciting,
There's only so many variations to make it look cool.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's that boring basic stuff is what has changed my body more than anything else. And again, it was one of those, I know we talked about this earlier, mindset shifts that it was less is better, but it has to be intentional and intense.
Yeah.
And again, these things. So I think the problem with social media is that there's just so much out there. People are trying to get your attention. So they're lying to you. They're fear mongering you. They're telling you that you're broken. And it's no, you're not broken. you're just freaking exhausted and you're saying yes to too many things, and you are, spending all your money on these supplements that don't do anything, and you're like pissed off that it's not working at the end of the day.
It's also like, I think it's also like completely missing the boat on like the messaging.
Yeah.
And like, as someone like who works in that kind of space and like helping people understand what they need to do, like one of the things that absolutely blew my mind, I had a friend who was just always burning the candle at both ends, and sauna, cold plunge, all working out like a madman. And I was laughing because like all of a sudden I started noticing like, oh, there's all these like breakdowns that are happening. And it's like you realize like most people, a lot of the marketing around like sauna and cold plunge is like, oh, this is your recovery. Actually, like, I hate to break it to you, sauna and cold plunge are like extreme stressors. Right. And like the reason that they work is because they talk about like saunas is like a great cardio workout for people that like can't physically get up and like move. Go sit in a sauna and like watch your heart rate. It'll go through the roof. Like, but we don't think of it. You think, oh, you're told that this is a way to recover. And then you're like, oh, so this is how I rest and recover. But you're actually like continuing the stress. Right. And so it's not actually like managing your stress. It's just adding 10 times as much to it. And so you think, oh, I'm going to like build extra capacity and then I can handle more stress. But at the end of the day, like, you're not actually making sure that you're managing it and bringing it down.
Right. And if you want to use those practices, I think they can be great practices.
100%.
But they also have to be part of a plan.
Yes.
They can't just be like, oh, I have my workout plan and now I'm going to cold plunge and sauna every day on top of that. It's like, now you're missing the point.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think those things they can be used. And I would also like to say for the record that they will not help you lose body fat. People like to
tell me more.
People like to say like, oh, if you start sauning, ice plunge, you're going to lose body fat. It's like, no, you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose body fat. Like those practices, they have a place. I truly believe they have a place. And if you are trying to teach yourself and your nervous system to have more capacity, those can be really great practices that within an overall health plan. However, you're not going to go sit in a cold plunge and lose body fat if you are not in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Like you think, oh, I'm going to shiver and burn the fat. It's like, well, no, if you still ate, a surplus of calories today, like it doesn't work that way. And I think so people have like, oh, I'm going to cold plunge to lose body fat. And it's like, no, that's not what it's for actually. But it can be really good if you are working to learn your nervous system and practice having capacity in the nervous system for difficult things.
Yeah.
Again, you still need to program it in and use it as a tool that, and still have time to rest and recover.
Exactly. And I feel like, for people who want to like have that, they're trying to do body recomposition and they're trying to lose body fat specifically. I mean, one of the things I feel like I've heard this 100 times is like, if you build more muscle, you literally like just naturally are burning a lot more energy at rest. And Correct. So like, that's like a very quick way if you're trying to, change the way your body looks, instead of doing the endless hours of cardio, right, build a little bit of extra muscle. And that, 3 to 4 pounds of muscle that you put on will now get you to a place where like, you're actually going to start utilizing and burning that stored energy that you have.
Yeah. I mean, it is a slower process. I think men can put on muscle a little bit faster than women, obviously, with testosterone in their natural bodies and things. However, we have to remember that building muscle or that toned look that everybody's after, oh, I want to look toned, I want to look lean. It is a combination of lifting heavy weights to build the muscle and then eating enough food, including protein, to rebuild the muscle. Yeah. And both of those, that's how you build muscle. It has to be that two-pronged approach. You're not going to just, if you just lift heavy, but then like you don't fuel your body properly, or even if you're fueling your body properly, but you're not picking up heavy weights, you're not going to build muscle. And so it's really the combination of the two. And I think people severely are under muscled in our culture. It's not even an over fat thing or an over body fat thing. It's like, you can still have body fat, but if you really start focusing on building muscle, your body fat's naturally going to slowly go down, and having a healthy muscular body makes it a lot better for longevity, for fighting off all cause, mortality, all the different causes for that. So we are, as a culture, very severely under muscled.
Yeah.
And again, you have to lift heavy and then eat to properly to refuel that. That's how you build the muscle. And then to see the muscle is decreasing of the body fat. So when people are like, oh, I want to be toned, it's like, well, there's three things you have to lift heavy, you have to eat enough food. And then after you've built the muscle, we need to bring the body fat down to a certain place to where you can see the muscle.
100%.
And some people don't care about seeing the muscle. They just want to feel good and be healthy. But again, if you can focus, it's a lot more fun to focus on building muscle than losing weight or losing body fat, because that's like not a very fun process.
Yeah.
And it is a bit hard, even though people are like, oh, it's so easy. It's like, no, if you're like losing body fat, it's hard. It is a hard thing to do. It's not easy. You can do it and minimize the hard, but it's still hard. However, if it's a lot more fun to be in a maintenance place or a place of building where you're like, oh, okay, you can eat a lot more food in the right quantities and lift weights and feel good during your workouts. And, that's kind of a more like happy longevity place to live than to always be, trying to lose weight or whatever, which I wish people would stop doing.
Yeah. I've started to think of it a little bit as like an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. Yeah. Like when you're constantly in that, like, oh, I have to lose weight, that's like scarcity, because you're like, oh, I'm trying to cut calories, I'm trying to cut all these things.
Right.
But it's like when you're focusing on like, okay, I'm going to like build muscle, then you're like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm eating the right things and like enough more of like, enough, protein to make sure that I'm able to like rebuild everything and, make sure I have enough calories so that if I am trying to like, for me, like putting on a little bit of extra weight so that I can like build that strength up, like that's something that's like a lot of fun, because it's like, I don't know, I turn into a little bit of a game.
It is
like,
a lot more, it's just more fun. I wish a lot more women, especially because women are always trying to diet or be smaller or lose weight. And I'm not trying to shame on anybody that wants to like lose some weight. Like that's a noble goal, but we can't always be doing that. That's like, get in 12 to 16 weeks, lose some weight, and then get to maintenance. Get to a place where like you're building muscle, you're eating a maintenance amount of calories. It's just a much funner place. That's where we need to live our life. And you can still build muscle there.
Yeah.
Because in a deficit, if you're trying to lose weight, it's a lot harder to build muscle in that place. Then it's more about mitigating muscle loss.
Yeah.
And maintaining what you have. But it's like, if you don't have a lot of muscle to begin with, going into a fat loss phase or a calorie deficit to lose weight, like you're not gonna love the result at the end of it, because you haven't spent the time to eat enough food, to build enough muscle, then to reveal the muscle. So for me, it's been a definite learning game of like this place of maintenance. But that's where we really need to spend the majority of our life, of our year, is in a maintenance place where you're eating maintenance or slightly above to build muscle, to fuel your body. Your sleep is better when you eat 100%. Better quantities of food. And I'm not talking about eating junk food. I'm talking about, eating enough protein, enough fiber, getting plenty of fruits and vegetables. You still have, with maintenance, you have more flexibility to include some ice cream and some fun things here and there, because like, life, and you should enjoy food. But, in fat loss, you really don't have that flexibility.
Yeah.
So it's like living in that place of maintenance. And for me, I've been in a maintenance phase now for a year and a half. And it's like, I don't ever want to leave. I don't know that I'll ever do a fat loss phase again. But I had spent a year doing 2 different fat loss phases. It was like fat loss, maintenance, fat loss, getting ready for a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And although that was a great learning experience, and I did, and in my personal journey that year, I lost over 20 pounds of body fat, and have been able to now maintain that because of the habits that I built during that year.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, I can eat a lot more food and still maintain that weight loss. But now I'm more just focused on, during this time, like, maintaining and building muscle. And it's just a lot more fun because my workouts feel stronger.
Yep.
I can lift heavier. I'm sleeping better. My body feels good. I have more energy because I have more food. So it's like, if women, they're always dieting. It's like, you feel like shit because you're not eating enough food. Yeah. And you can't live in that place.
The funny thing is, I had a job a couple of years ago where I, like, for the first time in a very long time, was actually eating like 3 meals a day. And I didn't have access to great food, but because I literally was carrying a backpack with like close to 40 pounds of equipment and a camera rig that was really heavy, and just constantly getting in like, 15 to 20,000 steps a day, even though I was sometimes eating like Taco Bell and whatever junk food on the road, just simply eating enough every single day, I realized that, like, not to say you can like mostly out exercise a really, really shitty diet, but like that movement will offset if you're like not perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And like,
well, perfection isn't the goal anyway.
Exactly. And so, but it like, for me, it was just kind of like an eye-opening thing is like, you know, I went from like years of being like locked in on my nutrition with a suboptimal movement plan to like really like, you know, going crazy all the time with movement with a suboptimal diet plan. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, let's figure out how to get this back into the middle. And now it's like this year I have, you know, diets a little bit more locked in, and I've been doing a lot more resistance and strength training. And it's like, for me, noticing like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of kettlebells for the one primary reason that, you know, one, you can get them on Amazon for super cheap.
Yep.
And the other thing is, for me, the way I've kind of like justified it in my head is like, my entire set that I have, like now I have up to 106 pounds. So I can like do actual like deadlifts.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing for me is like, I realized over time the improvements in strength, confidence, all the other things that came with building that discipline in my life meant that I didn't have to spend, you know, all the money on them all at once.
Right.
It was, I bought the 30-pound one because that's all I could afford, but that's also all I could lift.
Right.
And then like, okay, now you level up from there. And now it's like, you know, I bought the heavier ones, I think like a year ago. And it's like, I'm not at the point where I need to get anything heavier than that right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, for me, like, I wish more people could see that, because a big thing that I always like talk about with friends, I'm like, your gym membership is like the cheapest part of actually like getting to a gym.
Right.
It's like, you actually have to like the, you know,
right.
I mean, you can get a Planet Fitness membership for like what? $10 a month.
Yeah.
Like, they have everything that you could ever need to be able to go do that. And if you can kind of put aside like, oh, I'm going to Planet Fitness, like that like can be the thing that will allow you to make that change.
Yeah.
And like, you know, your, you know, $10 a month membership will allow you to, you know, enact that change. But you know, it's,
and I think too, like, I'm a huge fan of working out at home.
Yeah.
And again, for me, that started during the pandemic because I had kids and they were homeschooling at the time. And it's like, okay, I really need to figure out a way, because, you know, gyms were closed and all that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stuck because, and I find with a lot of people that have kids, and even so, again, I don't have a problem with going to the gym. I love going to a gym. However, when you can have equipment at home, it takes away that excuse.
100%.
It takes away that barrier of whether you're stuck in traffic on your way there, or you have to find childcare, or like, oh, I don't feel like driving to the gym. It's like, no, like if you have something at your house that you can do, it really, you know, increases the likelihood of you being consistent. And at the end of the day, like, even if you only have 30-pound weights or kettlebells, like that is better than like not going to the gym. And I wish more people understood that.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't always have to be getting a PR.
Yeah.
We do want to consistently build our strength. So yeah, like once the 30s get too light, then buy some 40s and so on and so forth. And like, you know, Facebook Marketplace, you can buy used weights. They don't expire, right?
Yeah.
Like you can get stuff for cheap, and people are always getting rid of that stuff. But, you know, 20 minutes counts.
Yeah.
And there's been so many times where, and I'm guilty of this too in my past, where it's like, oh, I don't have an hour, I'm just not going to do it. However, if you worked out 20 minutes a day versus you only did 1 hour session a week, but you could do 20 minutes every day, like by the end of the year, you would have worked out significantly more by just 20 minutes a day than if you only did one 60-minute session a week, because you thought 60 minutes is like perfect, and if you can't be perfect. And so people use these things as excuses a lot of the times, and it's that all or nothing mindset. So it's like, whether the weights aren't heavy enough or this or that, like we can't be so stuck in the weeds.
Yeah.
It's just like, just do it in whatever capacity you can that day, whether it's a 30-pound dumbbell at home, or if you can get to a gym, great. But if you only have 20 minutes, like that still actually really counts.
Yeah.
If you can be consistent doing 20 minutes a day, you can actually make really great results. You just have to do it.
It's also when you start talking about like resistance training and form and that side of things, like one of the people I was working with, when I kind of told her what I was doing for my workouts and what weights I was using, she was like, cool. She's like, you're so imbalanced. She's like, all I want you to do, keep doing that workout, but I want you to actually focus on the form. And this is exactly how I want you to do it. And I was doing like kettlebell rows. And so I was like really happy because I finally got up to use my like 52-pound kettlebell for rows. And she's like, you're not doing it remotely right. And so I like dropped down to the 35-pound and I started doing it right. And I was like, oh my God,
now you feel
like I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, but it's like, if you don't think you have a lot of time with it, like you can really fuck yourself up with a 35-pound kettlebell doing stuff like very intentionally the right way.
And that's what I'm talking about, like being intense and intentional with the weight.
And like you only need like 15-20 minutes to like get through a like reasonable workout with that weight. And then like as time goes on, like you start to like build it up. And it's like, even there's like still things I do now where it's like I have this very embarrassing little like 10-pound kettlebell, but like there's things that I still have to do with that because like
some muscle groups are like just smaller.
They're smaller, and like you got to like work it out that way. But it's like I'm continually getting through that and like building those up so that I can eventually bump up to my like 35-pound kettlebell and like be able to like do those types of things. But like it for me, it's like finding whatever that little thing is, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do this like very intentionally in the right way so that I'll like be able to find that result. And like I know that like finding those little efficient things that like you don't want to think about all the time because they're not the fun muscles to work out, but they're the ones that are like ultimately going to help you.
Sure. And I think that so much of what we were talking about with like finding even 20 minutes or just whatever you have available to you is so important, because again, back to that workout for the feeling or workout for the result. Like if you work out intentionally for 20 minutes with heavy weights, you are going to get the result. Now, you're not going to feel dead on the floor like a sweat puddle because you're used to working out for a feeling, but you're still activating and tearing those muscle fibers so that they can rebuild and be stronger by doing 20 intentional minutes. And I just think that people like, it can't be that easy. It can't be that easy. It just, and so then they don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like we get stuck in these things. We tell ourselves these excuses, whatever they are. And it's like that perfectionist all or nothing mindset has never helped anybody ever.
Yeah.
Is what it's. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, all or something wins.
Yeah. 100%.
Something still counts. If you have 5 minutes to get outside and walk, do it. 5 minutes still counts. And, it's so easy just like write that off. Like, oh, I only have 5 minutes. I'm not going to go do it. It's like, that still matters. That still counts, because like maybe the next day you'll have a little more time, but even if you just had 5 minutes the next day, it still counts. And then we also need to talk about time management, because if you only have 5 minutes, you're probably time management skills are probably pretty off if like that was a consistent thing. But there are days where you maybe, shit hits the fan, something happens at work, kids are sick, there's an emergency, whatever. You only have 5 minutes. I get it. Now, again, if that's your everyday situation, we really need to sit down and have a conversation about time management, because probably you suck at it.
Yeah.
And most people, unfortunately, do. They don't have a time problem. They have a time management problem.
I mean,
and that's just the way it is for most people.
That I always joke about it. I always have like the best intentions mornings of podcasts. I'm like, oh, I'm going to like get up, I'm going to get my workout in, and then everything's going to go great. And then like 11 o'clock last night, I realized I'm out of coffee. So I had to like wake up extra early to like go to the coffee shop and pick up some extra beans and whatnot. But it's like, I know that that's like totally part of life. I can still get a workout in this afternoon. Everything will be great. But
and I think something that a lot of people don't realize is they think that they have to get their workouts in between Monday and Friday.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, Saturday and Sunday for most people are more flexible days. So if you can work out every Saturday and Sunday and then only have to work out 1 or 2 weekdays when your schedule is a lot more crammed and you have a lot more deadlines and things, you can do that. Like Monday through Friday aren't the only days that you can get your workout, and you actually have a lot more time usually on the weekends to do those things and utilize that time. Again, it's a time management thing, but it's like if you can set your alarm for the regular time on Saturday morning and get up and get your workout done before doing whatever you have for the rest of your day off, there's more time than being rushed on a Thursday morning in having meetings and whatever you have to get to for work. So it's like utilizing that other time, and people somehow, for some reason, forget about that.
Yeah. And I mean, like you were saying at the beginning of this, like you also have to be able to schedule in those rest days and like understand that like, you can't just work out, unlimited amount all the time. Right. Like you have to be able to plan for those rest days. You need to be able to recover. I think one of the biggest unlocks for me in like working out is realizing like you can't work out more than you can recover. And like, if I overextend myself on a run, because I'm like, oh, I just need to like prove to myself I can still do this. And then I don't run for 4 days because I'm nursing a knee injury and I've got other issues, then like, what was the point of that? Like you proved something, but now you're injured for several days.
Yeah. The coach that I'm personally working with right now, he says like, live to train another day. And
that's awesome.
It's such, cause I'm of that mindset too. I have to really reel myself back a lot of times. Like I can always do more. I can go harder. And it still is that old mindset trickling back in of like those extremes, and reminding myself that yes, I could do another round physically.
Yeah.
But then like the rest of my workouts this week are going to suck because I'm going to have like gone too far today. And it's like like I want the rest of my workouts to still feel strong. And, he always says, live to train another day. And I think that's like such a powerful thing to think about, because a lot of times it's like, we just want to like have that feeling of beating ourselves up and, working ourselves into oblivion, but it's not the way to train. It's actually working against you in the long term if the rest of your workouts aren't going to be good that week.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That is an amazing line. Live to train another day.
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, that's a perfect line, I think, to wrap up on. I think we hit a pretty wide range of topics with this. And I think a lot of people are going to be very excited for this. So
awesome.
I once again wanted to say thank you for coming on, and I really appreciated this. And hopefully everyone that listens will get something out of this, and hopefully get in their 5-minute workout or whatever they get. So where can people find you online if they want to follow you, and, if they're interested in?
Yeah. I mean, Instagram's always the best way, begrudgingly, LOL, but at Gail Mitch. And, I post daily ideas for, busy women in their 40s and 50s, how to get their workouts in, how to get their nutrition in, how to get their mindset right. And I'm always loving to connect with people. So if anybody has questions or wants to know more about any of the topics that we covered, please reach out. I'm an open book. I love helping people. I'm in this industry because I believe that, we need real advice that's practical and that actually moves the needle. And, that's what I'm here to do, is help as many people as I can actually get results, live a healthy life, and have a high quality of life for as long as possible.
That's awesome. Sweet.
Thanks.
Well, bye, everybody.